Hello all. Welcome back to another session of Psychological Research and Statistics. Well, today I'll be taking up the topic of methods of data collection, and in particular to that we'll be talking about the topic of interview in the methods of data collection. So the contents for today's sessions are, we'll be studying about concept of interview. What do you mean by this concept, right? Which different types of interviews do we have in the research methods? Why do we need, or what is the function of an interview, right? Which all factors can affect the interview method or the interview procedure? What are the advantages and disadvantages of interview of all the research methods? Also, we'll also be seeing that in case if you are an interviewer, what kind of errors can actually bring in a change in your interview process, as well as we'll also be checking, right, what kind of selection and training is required when you conduct an interview. Well, the first topic is that what is an interview method? An interview method is a method of social interaction wherein two people are involved. One is an interviewer and the other one is an interviewee. Now, why are these two people involved? Well, these two people are involved because one is seeking information and the other will be giving information in relation to the interview topic. Well, as I had mentioned earlier, in an interview it is necessary that we have it face to face, alright? And in that we have two people involved, as I mentioned earlier. One is the interviewer who will be posing the questions, and the other one is a respondent whom we can also call the interviewee in this scenario. And the purpose of this interview, as I had told earlier, is to derive certain amount of information from our respondent on a certain topic in accordance with the interview. Coming to the types of interview, the first type that we have is a formal interview. Alright, the moment you hear this word, certain terminologies like official, professional must come into your mind to make it more easy what kind of features a formal interview may contain. 1. This interview method has already a pre-structured questionnaire setup. That means that before the interview commences, the interviewer already has a prepared line of questions which make it easier for him to ask those questions and actually derive answers which are quite fixed in his head. Second, these questions are arranged in a set order. Well, in a research, when I'm going to research about a certain topic, I'm looking for a certain amount of information. So it becomes quite necessary that the kind of questioning or the line of questioning that I prepare is in a set order. It can be from general to specific. Suppose I ask in the beginning of the session the demographic information, wherein later on in the later part of the interview I ask some specific questions, and that can be in accordance with my interview topic. Thirdly, we have whatever answers I'm getting, they are recorded in a standardized form. Alright, so when you have a fixed set of questions, the answers also need to be quantified in a certain manner, and that quantification method or the recording method is already preset before the interview. Now, one very good thing about formal interview is that because everything is already set for us beforehand, even a person who does not have an expertise in a set topic, that person can also conduct a formal interview. Now, on the other hand, we have the second type of interview, that is the informal interview. Well, informal sounds a little casual. Why? Because there are no preset questions. Now, this is a line of questioning wherein the expertise of the interviewer will matter a lot. Why? Because there is no preset question, so there has to be a certain amount of expertise on the part of the interviewer on what kind of question he is going to ask, right? What kind of answer is he looking for? What kind of interest topic is he going to ask from the respondent? There is no preset order as a second feature. It depends upon what do I want, how do I want. It can be up to my mood, it can be up to my interest. It is actually something that is in the now that will determine what kind of question do I ask. And lastly, this interview method is also known as unstructured interview. I need not explain it more again, because already the first 2 points tells you that there is no standardized form or method required in this interview. Therefore, it is called as the unstructured interview. Coming to the functions of interview, there are two main functions. The one is description, the other one is exploration. This one is more important for us, however, we'll come to it later on. Well, the description method is actually wherein the interview is conducted so that if there is a set topic or a stimuli in this social element, we can ask the respondent what does he think about, how does he describe the situation. So descriptive interviews are more in turn wherein we wish to know the nature or the interactive quality of the social life, and that's why we have interviews with the function of description. When it comes to exploration, we are actually trying out to find some novel information on an already existing stimuli, right? Now, when the COVID happened, I'm interested how many people were affected. What were the symptoms? Was there any form of somatoform disorders seen in those who actually got vaccinated or who got affected and then later vaccinated? So if I'm curious about all these kind of questions, I can get my answers in the exploratory function of the interview method. So far, so good. Now, there can be certain factors, however planned, preset your interview is, there are still some subjective factors that can actually affect the quality or the quantification of your interview. The first factor which can affect your procedure is the characteristics of interviewers. Well, as many people we have on board, as many personalities we have, right? So in an interview, this becomes a very subjective personality, that what kind of interviewing procedure we will have on the basis of who the interviewer is. Suppose if you have interviewer in the form of Arnab Goswami, you can realize what kind of interview we have. And in the same manner, if you have an interview by, let's just say, Amitabh Bachchan, or if we have a rendezvous with Simi Garewal, you understand the quality, the procedure of interview method, even in these talk shows change. That is the same case with research methods as well, right? Especially in an unstructured interview, the quality of questioning, the quality of storing information, the kind of scoring the interview does on respondents' answer, that all actually can be changed or can change because of who the interviewer is. Your age, your gender, your own personal demeanor, your mood, all these kind of factors can actually bring in a change in the interview procedure. Secondly, the characteristics of interviewees. Well, who is my interviewee? Now, there are various factors, okay? An interview might be resistant, another one might be more verbal, right? Now, these are certain subjective factors which can actually bring in a change in the quality of the interview process. What if I have an interviewee in front of me who's not interested to answer the questions, who's only giving me monosyllabic answers? Or I have an interviewee who's quite verbal, quite open, however, I do not have the validity with whatever he's saying. Is he telling me the truth or not, right? So the nature of interview can also bring in a change. What his age is, does he have the information of the said topic, is he prepared, is he well, right? All these factors actually facilitate or even hamper the interview process. Also, the nature of the problem under study. In an interview procedure, if I'm asking a series of questions, it might be that you have all the answers to a topic. However, there's one topic out of your whole syllabus that you did not study. What if in my interview, I asked only questions from that particular topic? That's not the right measure of your intelligence or your capacity. However, it also gives us a clue that the topic under study can also actually bring in a change in the interview procedure. Suppose if I have a topic which is very general, so all the panelists on the interview procedure might be able to answer the questions related to that. But what if there is a topic which is very sensitive? Suppose I'm asking questions related to your financial gains, I'm asking questions related to your tax payment, or I'm also asking questions related to your marital life. As an interviewee, how easy will it be for you to answer questions related to that? So this gives us an idea. The topic under the study also have an impact on our interview procedure. Coming to certain advantages, that why of all the research methods I should be going for interview method. One, it allows me a certain amount of flexibility. Suppose if it's an unstructured interview, I can ask my own series of questions. I can take the line of questioning according to my will, right? So this gives me a flexibility in comparison to a questionnaire method. I can only retrieve information as much is mentioned in the questionnaire. However, when it comes to interview, I can ask questions according to my will. I can change the scenario of the line of questioning according to my will. right? So that gives me a certain amount of flexibility. Coming to the second feature or the second advantage, that is the acquisition of correct interpretation. Suppose I have an interviewee in front of me and he said something which I did not get as an interviewer, or I want to check the validity of that statement. There and then I can ask the interviewee to give me its interpretation. So there is no point wherein an ambiguity or vagueness can come, right? Suppose I asked him a question and he gave me an answer to which I want more clarification. Well, in an interview, that can be done there and then. Thirdly, helps in obtaining information readily and quickly. If I wish to have answers to a particular topic, there is that moment wherein my interviewee sits, and if I have the correct rapport with him, I can ask as many questions and get the answers, clarification, as well as the validation of it there and then. Moving on, we have the situational control in an interview method. I can control the scenario of the interview method. Even if it goes wrong or even if it goes according to my plan, I can mold it according to my will. And that makes it really easy and, as I had mentioned earlier, flexible for the interviewer. Validity of the verbal information, as I had mentioned earlier. Right? Suppose if I say that I was a UPSC aspirant in one of my interviews, there and then the interviewer can ask me, how do you call yourself an aspirant for this competitive exam? What did you do? Therein I have to give my answers and justify why did I make that statement. So there itself in that interview procedure, I would have to prove my validation, and that can be done quite smoothly in an interview method. Now towards the end of this session, we are going to cover limitations of an interview method. First one, interviewer's variability. It was quite well as long as I was saying that I can change, mold the scenario, the interview session according to my will. However, suppose in a research method, we have 10 interviewers, 10 interviewing sessions for one particular topic. Now, as the interviewer changes, his way of interpretation, his way of recording the data, his way of quantification completely changes. So it takes away the element of objectivity when it comes to quantification of my data, right? So that is one first limitation related to interview method. Secondly, the interviewer variability as well. As I was telling you, when it comes to interpreting, suppose we have the same set of questions also with us. However, how I score and the second interviewer scores, how do I quantify and the other one quantifies, there can be a difference in related to, because we have the same post, however we have two different personalities, and that can bring a change to my quantification procedure in the interview method. Third, validity and dependability of verbal responses. I did say that yes, we can get clarification. However, because an interview can be an extraneous process, for how many statements are you going to take validation? You cannot be clarifying each and every statement, because then it will become a very strenuous affair, right? So yes, it does give you a chance to validate. However, that cannot be possible for all the data that you are collecting. Fourth limitation is the time factor. As I said, most of the time interview is conducted face-to-face. That means it's on one-to-one basis. So for every interviewer, even if you're taking 10 to 15 minutes, then that means your whole day is spent, even if you have 50 respondents for that day. So it requires a certain amount of time, not just for collecting the data, but for interpretation, for quantification. So therein we get to know that it does provide us flexibility, however, we lose time over it. The second last is the variation. Variation can come in the manner of interpretation, and it can come in the manner of interviewers, interviewees, right? It can come in the manner of situation to situational change, which is not in our control. So these kind of variations can actually take away the essence with which you have begun your interview process. Lastly, we have the glitch related to recording information. Some people prefer that while they're interviewing, they take down notes. That is good, right? However, it can have limitation. A human hand has a limitation. How much of information are you going to write? Whatever he says, are you interpreting it in the same manner? The interviewee, whatever he says, is the interviewer interpreting it in the same manner and noting down in the same manner? right? Another method of recording can be in terms of a digital or an audio device. But how much are you going to listen to it? How are you going to content analyze the recording material into it? That all actually makes it a tedious task, and therefore, because we don't have a proper standardized tool yet for it, so that also brings in a limitation for the method of interview. So for today's session, we had only this much. We'll meet you in the next session. Until then, stay blessed. Thank you.